welcome to the podcast. Very excited. We have Bec Bailey here today.
Hi.
She's traveled down to have a chat with us and teach us a little bit about water safety in children and toddlers and babies especially. That's her specialty. So she's got over 20 years of experience, which is very exciting, and mainly working up in Brisbane, Queensland area. So, Bec, awesome. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
It's
for
good
coming.
to be here.
Yeah, so we actually met a few times in the past, but over wanting to teach instructors how to be swim instructors. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Teach
teachers how to teach.
teachers how to teach. It's not confusing at all. But so we both got a passion for the importance of water safety and making sure people are passionate because it's such an important gig. So yeah, we'll start with that.
Yep.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I guess, why did you get into the swimming and kind of how you got started?
Well, I've always been a bit of a swimmer myself. I never had lessons as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my parents couldn't afford to send me to lessons when I was a kid.
Dad tossed you in the pool type thing?
No, I just, I come from a little country town in New South Wales, and then when we moved to Queensland, we got a pool put in the backyard, and I pretty much taught myself how to swim between that and basic school swimming lessons.
Okay.
So I just did swimming for fun for myself. And then when I got to be an adult, so I was about 19, I decided that I was going to do stroke correction classes, adult stroke correction. So I did that for about 18 months and pretty much had to relearn how to swim properly because I'd always just done my version of it. So I learned all 4 strokes in adult learn to swim. And then I got invited to join the master swimming team at the pool that I was swimming at. And I went, okay, I'll give it a crack. So I started swimming in that, and that's when I met my best friend, Mandy. And she was a swimming teacher. And so she encouraged me to become a swimming teacher as well. When I decided that I didn't want to work in retail anymore, my daughter was just over a year old, I think. She's like, why don't you become a swim teacher? And I went, all right, give it a crack.
Why not?
So I went and got my teacher's license and went and worked with her for a while, just teaching general learn to swim from 4 and up. Went and started working at another place at the same time. And a teacher didn't turn up that day. And my boss was like, oh, my God, I need someone to teach this babies class. And I went, oh, well, I've never taught babies well, but I've taken my daughter to classes. I can give it a crack. And so I did, and the parents loved what I did in the class, which was nice. So then I went and did my infants qualification and steamrolled from there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Now, you said you specialize in adults, too. Like, is that kind of why you think you did that? Because you learned all the advanced techniques, or?
Maybe, but it took a while for me to get into teaching adults. I was a little bit intimidated at first, I think, because they can think for themselves and talk for themselves. And
you're like, do
sort
this,
of like,
oh
my God, what if I say the wrong thing and they catch me out? But the majority of the time, most beginner adults don't know anything about water and stuff. But they're choosing to be there. Yeah. So they want to be there and they want to know the information. So I love teaching beginner adults as well and watching them go from being absolutely petrified to being able to move through the water in some form and enjoy it, especially after having any kind of traumatic event, which is generally what happens when they've never learned how to swim until as an adult. So I suppose, me doing stroke correction has helped with that. I just really find it really rewarding to be able to give a gift like that to someone who's just been so scared all the time as well. And, so it's just also rewarding. All of the bits.
It's all
I love it.
But that's a good point. So why would you recommend people start young? So we talked in my last episode that starting about 6 weeks, and I said I started at 8 weeks with my son. Is there, would you teach someone a little bit differently if they were starting at, 6 months old versus 6 years old versus 60 years old? Is there kind of different ways you look at that?
Yes and no. So obviously the earlier they're in, it just becomes a natural part of their life, and they, just progress through. The children that I see have taught from the 8 to 12 week mark. By the time they get to 2.5, are so far ahead of kids who start at 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Because by the time they get to about 2, they've started to learn what fear is, and generally, mummy and daddy, in our parental wisdom, have been saying, "Don't go near the water because you might drown." And don't go to strangers because they're going to take you away from me. And then all of a sudden at 2, we're coming into this environment with these strangers where I might drown, and these strangers are going to take me away from my mum and my dad. And they freak out. So
I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. So here's stranger,
like programming
my child in
a few negatives around it.
So I generally sort of mention that to those parents who come in and their children are just like wigging out because it's like, oh my God. And that's right through from about that 18 months, 2 years age, right through to 4. Yeah. If they've never had that awareness around water or anything, and the parents being like, no, don't go near the water. So those sort of kids I, treat differently to the ones that's starting at 6 months, because I've got to then establish a relationship and a trust with those children and their parents, to get them over those fears first about being in this drowning situation and with a stranger. So that's my biggest task to start with, is to get that trust up in both the child and the parent, and especially the parent, because they're entrusting their baby to us, and we've got to treat those children with respect and everything, and respect their fears and themselves, and make sure that they're comfortable before we start getting them to do things that would make them a little bit uncomfortable again. Yeah. And then again, when they get older again, they've got a couple more years of fears instilled into them.
Yeah, or they might have heard stories about another kid did this or something.
Yeah, or they've had a little bit of an incident that they remember, like they might have been pushed under the water by another kid, snuffed water up their nose, and, those sorts of things we've got to get them to learn how to recover from as well. So we've got to get through those traumas before you can get the children to go further. It is generally a little bit easier with those slightly older, so those 6-7-year-olds, to get them to understand and trust a bit more than the younger ones. And then when you get to adults, so the oldest adult I've ever taught to swim was 72. She had a bet with her sister-in-law that they were going to swim and surprise their families that Christmas. So they had 6 months, and she was so determined. But I had about 70 years worth of trauma to get her through before I could even get her to actually put her face in the water. So when you get to adults, it's really, really psychological. Yeah. It's a lot of talking to them and getting through that glass barrier, that glass roof, and smashing that of their fears that they've had for 70 years before you can then go on and get them to be able to do the actual skills.
Oh my God, I remember I had a lady, and she, like, every other word was a curse word. Like, just walking in the pool, it was just so crazy. Yeah. Because exactly, she had so many fears. So if someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, oh crap, I haven't started my kid's 2, almost 3, is there anything they could kind of do at home, like before getting them ready for swim lessons to hype them up, or to teach them, or to practice something at home?
Positive talking to start with, 100%.
Yep.
If you've got a bathtub, my favourite thing is just a little watering can. You get them at Kmart, they're like $2.
Okay, yeah.
Water cans, just playing with it in the water, letting them run it over their bodies to start with, and if they don't like water on their face, we always use a cue. I use name, ready, go, and I also generally say eyes in as well. So name, ready, go, and then trickle it across their face and let them blink it out. Try to avoid the temptation to wipe the water off their faces, because the water trickling down is actually conditioning them to get used to having that on their faces. So yeah, watering cans, the best thing to have in the bathtub. Showers as well. If you can in the bathtub as well, you can have them laying down on their backs just to get the water used to tickling their ears, because the kids really don't like that tickle if they've not been in before. Oh gosh, I reckon even 10, 11 months. If I've seen kids react to that tickle in the ear. And it also, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I noticed it in myself, and that's when I started asking the kids. When you lay back, it's like the equilibrium changes in your head, and you get like a fuzzy feeling in your head. Have you ever had that?
Okay.
No,
I noticed. I haven't done any back kicking
So,
in a while.
I personally don't love backstroke.
I just am not good at back.
I'm not great at it.
So I just don't do it.
And I found that when I was training for master swimming, when I did do backstroke, when I lay back, just in here in the top of my head, I get like this fuzzy feeling in my head. I don't know what it's from. I just say it's like the equilibrium changing in your head. And so when I started to feel it and I saw the kids reacting to it, I say, what's going on in your head? What's happening?
Maybe
Do you feel like
a
fuzzy feeling going on in your head? And they're just like, yeah. I went, it's okay. Just let it be there. It's just telling you your head's in the right position, which is pretty much what it was when I was laying back. When I got into the right position, I'd feel that feeling. And I'm just like, it's just telling you you're in the right spot, and eventually it'll go away. Yeah, eventually it's sort of just...
Well, again, you're not really ever in that position any other time except when you're sleeping.
That's it. And, so if you can get them laying down in the bath and getting them used to having their tickle on their ears, and if they do get that fuzzy feeling, just reassuring them that it's okay. Yeah. And that will help a lot with the backfloating, because backfloating is so important for safety in the water. Probably those, just real positive talking about swimming being fun, having fun at the pool, not necessarily saying we're going to go have swimming lessons. I usually say to the kids, who's ready to have some fun? Who's ready to play in the pool today? Yeah. I don't say who's ready for their swimming lesson, because sometimes that can be a bit intimidating.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah. So I say, let's go and have some fun in the pool together. So talking about it really, really positively, and then, getting them used to having that water across their face and in the ears.
And that's a good reminder. I remember I taught a kid, and he just moved into my class where the mom was out of the water, and he was 3. And he'd get water on his face, and then he'd go, Mommy, and she'd like go and wipe his face with a towel. And I'm like, you've done that. Like, us as parents, we've actually instilled this kind of fear, or that we need to wipe our face. Yeah. So if you can get out of that habit, because it's kind of an urge that I even want to do sometimes. I go underwater, I'm like, okay, blink, blink, blink. Like, don't wipe my face, don't wipe my face. Yeah. So that's a good tip that they can learn. Yeah, and teaching them how to blink the water out of their eyes as well. With that water conditioning, when they're a little bit older. So I generally say to the kids, don't rub your eyes like this, because that's when the chlorine goes in and they get really red eyes. But I say, blink your eyes, go blink, blink, blink. And then I say to them, shake the water off your hands and then just tap your eyes very softly. And that will help. But also, get them used to just blinking it out as well. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Now, we were talking a little bit beforehand about the importance of, we want it to be a fun swim lesson. We want to have fun, but it's also a safety aspect to it. And a lot of people don't know why. And we talked about monkey walking. So I don't know if you guys know what monkey walking is. Will you explain what monkey walking is and why it's important? Because it is actually really a fun thing, but a safe thing. Yeah. And then what age? Because I'm like, should Marcus be able to do this yet or not? Because he's kind of got grip strength, but he's not quite there yet. So so I've always taught the basics of monkey walking from 6 months at pretty much all the programs that I've ever taught at. So if you don't know, monkey walking is a safety skill that they do on the wall. They grip the wall. I say cheeky sea monkeys. So they grip the wall with their fingers on the top of the wall, and then they put their toes on the wall as well. And then they just sort of scamper across the wall like a cheeky sea monkey. Now, it is a fun activity. It's really cute when the kids are chasing their parents along the wall and stuff like that. But I've especially recently, I've been asking parents, do you know why we do monkey walking? And they're just like, for safety. I mean, yes, that's half right. It is for safety, but where would you use it?
So a lot of them will say, oh, when they fall in to get back to the wall. So that's half right. Yeah, when they get back to the wall. But if they can't get out immediately, so if the wall's too high or something like that, they can scamper along the wall until they find a safe exit point to get out.
So they climb to safety, basically.
Yeah, so they're going horizontally along till they find a safe spot to actually climb out of if they can't get out immediately. And they're just like, oh, okay. So that's why we do monkey walking, not just because it's a fun, cute little activity for them to do.
Yeah. Do you find there's a certain age where you kind of see, because I know there's a point where the parents hold on to the kids and help them do it, but there's got to be a point where the parents let go and the kids kind of fall on their own.
So the program that I'm teaching at now, when we do the 6 months through to about 13, 14 months, they're in the first level there. Obviously, to start off with, the parents will be holding their little hands and going along with them. I've found generally when they get to probably about 10, 11 months, they're able to grip. So part of our monkey walking circuit that we use, at the end of their monkey walk, their little tester is to actually hold and grip the wall for 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
So to start off with, the parents are obviously holding them completely, and then as they start to get bigger and stronger and understand the concept a bit more, the parents are able to start sort of letting go, and then they can start seeing.
So that's about 12 months.
Yeah, so most of the ones I've seen, probably about 10 months, they're sort of starting to understand the concept of holding on nice and tight.
Yep.
And then once they get to probably about 13 months, they're actually starting to do a little bit of movement along.
Yeah.
Then, when they go up to the next age group, which in most programs that I've been at is from 12 months through to 2 years, that's when they really start to get the moving through there. I'd probably say maybe about 14 months, I reckon, is when they're starting to really get their little move on.
Okay.
14, 15 months. And then really chasing from that 20 months, I reckon, really
make it a bit more fun.
Chasing the parents across there. Yeah.
Because a lot of the reason why we do what we do is for safety, so that they're safer. Right, we teach them to fall in and climb out, things like that. But if they ever fall in and they're a bit scared or shocked or things like that, they might not have that strength to get back out. So it's a really good thing. I think it's forgotten about sometimes. They're just like, oh, it's a fun activity and it gets us to the next stage in the circuit. Yeah. So if you are doing that in any of your classes, it's very important, and you can practice at the pool at home. Yeah. Maybe not anywhere else, but
and try practicing on different pool heights as well. So a lot of pools these days are just flat with the water level, but if you happen to be at a pool that does have a raised edge, make sure you're practicing along there as well, because obviously their arms are up a bit higher, so gravity is grabbing them a bit more, so they're having to get used to their body weight a bit more out of the water, so it'd be a bit harder. So you want to try in as many different type of circumstances that you could.
Yeah, and that's what my last guest, Sasha, had said, that, a kid might be able to swim in this pool where the tile is blue and the edge is low, but then you go to a dark pool or there's a line in it or the edge is higher or things like that, and they don't know what to do. So especially when it comes to safety, it's a really good tip to practice that in different pools.
And the temperatures of the water really make a huge difference as well. We generally teach in nice, cushy 32-degree water, but most outdoor pools are a lot less than that. And so if they do fall in, like you said, they
probably
they
not
could have
be
a
a nice
shock.
heated pool either.
Yeah. So if they fall into an outdoor pool, they're going to have a bit of a shock and stuff. And they're going to have to really know what to do if they do go into one with the high wall as well, rather than just a nice flush wall. Yeah.
No, that's a good tip. Awesome. All right. Now, do you have any games or fun activity that's kind of your favorite? So let's stick with that, 2-year-old range to kind of help teach them a skill, but also something that parents can maybe do at home if they have a pool at home. So kind of a game or a fun song that sticks out to you that you recommend?
I love songs in classes. I sing through the whole thing all the time. Even when it comes to climbing out, it's like, elbow, elbow, tummy, knee, sitting on your bottom, please. I sing everything. So I'm always singing. I love water conditioning songs, not necessarily just like the watering can ones, but swishing ones and things like that. And my actual all-time favourite song is probably one not many people have heard of, because it's one my best friend taught me when she was still teaching, called Wash the Dirty Clothes.
Okay, I haven't heard that one. I was thinking you were going to say Wheels on the Bus or something. But...
I do sing that one very regularly at work at the moment. We do sing that one every day. But no, this one's called Wash the Dirty Clothes, and it's water conditioning with getting them used to having the water going on their sides of their faces and stuff like that, and having their bodies getting used to moving in different ways. Yeah. Do you want me to sing it?
Yeah, no, I'm singing it. I'm like...
Yeah, it is my all-time favourite one. It is one that I have to...
I help to get blood. Yeah.
I have to control the dads with this one if I ever do it, though, because they do get a little bit over-exuberant with some of it. So I'm just like, we have to do this softly. So, yeah, Saturday dads, they're a fun time. All right, so you'll be holding your baby facing you or facing away, whichever way you want to do. If they're younger, I generally have them facing towards me. That's all right. So to start off with, we switch from side to side. We go, wash the dirty clothes, wash the dirty clothes, rub and scrub and wash the dirty clothes. So we're not dunking them under here, by the way. We're just
kind of like cheek
swishing,
ear, maybe.
Yeah, ear and cheek into the water. All right, so that's the first verse. And then the second verse, we go up and down. Okay. We go, wash the dirty clothes, wash the dirty clothes, up and down and wash the dirty clothes. So you just go up and down with that one. That's the bit I have to control the Saturday dads because they like to throw and freak me out. Yeah, and then once we've done that one, we do a spin dry. So we do a big spin around in a circle in one direction, spin around in a circle in the other direction, and then we drip dry. Again, Saturday dads, you need to control them. And it's just a very soft shake like this. And yeah, so that's my all-time favorite.
I like that one. I love this. I'm so going to do that before.
So yeah, so that's my favorite one. So it just gets their bodies moving about, and but for actual skills-wise and stuff like that, I do love the bunny hop one.
Okay. What's the bunny hop?
So you'll recognise it once I say it. So it's when their children lay back on their parents' shoulder to start with. I prefer to try and get the parents to have the children go out onto their fingertips as early as possible if they can, because you want them to be learning how to... on
their back face up?
Yeah, so laying on their back face up, on fingertips preferably, but on shoulder if you need to. And then we pretend that we're... it sounds terrible, but I say we're going hunting rabbits like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. You know, shh. Be very, very quiet. And so we very quietly walk backwards for 5 steps. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we be very loud bunnies bouncing into the middle. So then we come up and we bounce back into the middle and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we jump back in the middle and we go, yay! Oh, nice. So it's really good for getting them to learn that back float. The majority of the kids love it. There is still those certain ones who don't like getting their ears wet.
So it's a fun activity to go with the back float.
Yeah, so I like that one. What other ones do I like?
It's funny because the bunny hop actually reminds me, it can also be a safety thing in those like 2 to 3 year olds, because if they can kind of touch the ground, they can jump and pull to safety. If they're not swimming and they're in the middle of pulling, they freak out.
Yep. So, yep. Really good for that. What other ones do I like? I love teaching and watching the facial expressions of the parents when we do swims into the walls and back out again.
Yep.
And the part I love watching the parents' faces with is when I start to encourage them to start letting go. Because the parents just like, anyway, it's funny. But what I really, really love about it is when they start to get more confident with it and understanding that it's okay to let them go for a little bit and go under the water a little bit, and they start to get comfortable and confident with it, and they start to see their children flourish because they're not being held so much in the water. Because the more you hold them as they get older, the more they're going to rely on you and just go, I'm not going to do anything.
And the thing is, a lot of times they can do it, and you said it earlier, the kid is reacting to what the facial expression is, not the parent.
Yeah.
So if you're like, you can do this, and they go under and you're like, yeah, you did it. If you're like, oh, are you all right? Give me a hug. Like, they're going to react, and they're going to be like, oh, what just happened? Am I all right with that? So, just, again, letting go of them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, in a safe environment, especially if you're with a swim instructor, and then practicing that stuff at home, too.
Yeah. Yeah, but always making sure as well with those sorts of activities is that you're making sure that you do that cue as well. All right, because if you just pull them in without then knowing that's going to happen, they're going to lose their trust in you, and they won't want to do it anymore. All right, so always make sure you use a cue and maintain that cue the whole way through. Like, I have some parents sometimes do the name ready go, and then on the next one they go 1, 2, 3, and just make sure you maintain the same.
Yeah, and between parents too, because like I do Mark's ready go with my little one, and then Dad's like, all right, ready go. And I'm like, or like 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, he doesn't know. You're just dunking him underwater now. Look, you've got to make sure you tell him.
Yeah, like, so then they're prepared for it. Yes, that's it. So we do all this conditioning and then ruin it by not doing the cue and losing the trust. So
nice. All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that kind of comes to mind that you'd like to share with the audience about, any just fun tips or stories you have from your teaching experience over the years?
I think probably one of my biggest things that I say to parents when they first come into my classes, especially if they've not ever done lessons before, is just to make sure that you're really relaxed within yourself. All right. Even if you're running late to your class or something like that, any nervousness or agitation that you're holding within your body will transfer through your fingertips to your child, and then they will feel that, and then be really nervous or agitated as well. All right. So when you come in, make sure your body's nice and loose and really, really loose through your fingertips, because you don't want to transfer any fears or agitation that you have through to your child, because otherwise they're just going to react to that. And
that's a good tip. And I know, especially when I was, the newer mom, I was running late a lot to my swim lessons.
Story of my life.
But they do the welcome song, and we were still getting changed on the deck, and that's all right. And then we'd slowly get to the pool, because if I rush in and I go this and this, then he's not going to be in a good state either. So you miss a few minutes of the class, but if you rush it, you might miss half the class.
Because I'll be upset instead. Yeah. And also, if the same thing with that reaction thing, if they do go under the water accidentally, your reaction to that will dictate how they react as well. So if you're like, oh my God, like this to them, they're going to feel that, and they're going to come up coughing and spluttering and screaming their lungs out. So, as much as your heart's going to jump into your throat, swallow it down if you can, and just sort of pick them up slowly and go, oh, you silly Billy. They'll probably still have a little bit of a cry sometimes. You just have a little cuddle. You're okay. You're fine. Come on, let's go. I do a lot of pretend coughing in front of kids when they come up having a little bit of having snuffed a little bit of water up. So I'll go, or I'll try and make them laugh somehow to dislodge that. And then they're generally okay. But if you have that big reaction, then
that's a great tip, especially for parents. Nice. Well, I've got a question. So my last guest, I actually leave a question for you, not knowing who you are.
Oh gosh.
So she asked about when the kids progress to the next level. So at the swim schools I'm working at currently, usually they do solo classes from 3. The parent gets out of the water.
Yep.
Do you recommend they wait that long, or would they do it earlier? And why would be that? Because we do get that question a lot. I think the parents are just sick of it, honestly, because it is a lot of repetition. But that's how kids learn. So would you get a 2.5 or a 2-year-old on their own without the parent, or do you recommend they stay in the water with the kids until they're 3 or even older?
That's a really hard one because it depends on what swim school you teach at for a start and what their policies are.
Yeah.
Some swim schools say, no, parents aren't allowed out till they're 3. I don't know, some swim schools, no, parents aren't allowed out till they're 4.
Yeah. Okay.
So in that regards, you're sort of restricted.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about that. That's what the school's policy is. You have to stick with it. Swim schools that I have managed in the past that I wrote the programs for, my personal opinion on it is it's all dependent on the child to start with, how long they've been swimming for.
Okay.
So their confidence and their competence, not just confidence, they've got to be competent as well. The youngest child that I think I've ever put up to without a parent is a little boy called Johan, who I actually still teach now. He was 2.3.
Okay, that's young.
He had swum with me since he was 8 weeks old.
Yeah.
Every week. Most of the time 2 times a week for all that time. And he is the most advanced baby I've ever taught in my entire life. He is just blows my mind. He's now 4.5, I think, nearly 4.5, and is learning freestyle. So he's pretty good there, yeah. Bit of a soft spot. So with him, I was finding like he was confident and competent, but he was also starting to get a little bit naughty for his mum.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes if they're misbehaving with the parents, it could also be.
Yes, so because of that, we did put him up, but he also transitioned with me, obviously. That can make a huge difference as well. So if they're with the same baby teacher for all that time and they're really confident with that teacher, I've found if they transfer too early to go to another teacher, that can be a little bit detrimental sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would personally recommend transitioning with the same teacher because the teacher knows all their little irks and quirks. But in saying that as well, it is also good for kids to be with other teachers as they get older and everything too, because they've got to learn how to adjust to other people, especially when they go to school. So Johan does do one lesson with me still, but he also does another lesson with another teacher too.
And that's a good way, especially when you enter a swim school. I always say, even if you love one teacher, if you're doing 2 lessons a week, which is what recommended, or even just do makeup lessons, try to get with different teachers, because even when I'm interviewing different people, you're all going to say something a little bit differently, or, you might connect or grab that little bit hint of something a little bit differently. And again, like you said, it's safety and they have to get used to it at school. They're going to have different teachers and can't control that. So it's good to start them.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's really dependent on the swim school you're at.
Okay.
The children
you would
I have in the past had them earlier. Yeah. Generally I'd find around 2.9.
There's like an emotional thing that happens.
Yeah, around 2.9 is sort of a good one. And because I find if they go any later than that, they start to get a bit of a reattachment back to the parent, and then it's really hard to get the parent out.
Something happens at that 2.9. It's like an emotional developmental stage probably. So I find if you don't get them out right at the right time, they can go backwards in that regard. But again, it's dependent on whether your swim school will allow it or not. All right.
I'm still to try and work out how the swim schools that keep them in until 4 keep the engagement with the parent and the child.
Yeah. I mean, I get the concept because the kid is constantly swimming with the parent. So as long as the program's progressing it, I feel like the parents want to get them out most of the time. The parents want to get out themselves.
They do. Yeah.
And if they're in a normal class, they've got to sit on the side. They've got to behave, which is hard for a 2 or 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So I get both aspects of it. So it was a good question.
So it is. It's That's what I mean. It was a really hard question to actually answer because there's so many different aspects to that question. And
good and bad. So definitely talk to, if that's your question, if you're like, oh, when do I get to get out of the water? Definitely chat to your teacher a little bit more in your swim school and see what their reasoning behind it.
Yeah. I think you'll generally find, though, it'll be about that 2.9 to 3 age group is most places will recommend. Yeah. I think,
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming down and having this chat. And I'm very excited that getting some more experienced teachers on board, which is cool. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and we'll get back to make sure she helps answer anything if you have any. And we'll be there, or we can pass on to the next teacher. So thank you so much again for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the water.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.